this is Scott Morris, and this is another video from my Classical Guitar Complete series. It's based on my books, Classical Guitar Complete from Basics to Bach, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And today's lesson is going to be actually from Volume 2, and we'll focus on guide fingers and left hand preparation. If you have the book, it's actually on page 22 in Volume 2. And again, it's going to primarily just focus on the left hand here and try to make the left hand technique as efficient as possible. And there are really three things that you have to consider. More than three things really, but three main things you really want to consider when you're working out your left hand fingerings here in order to make them as efficient as possible. And one of those is, where are your guide fingers? The other is your finger preparations, and then most importantly, in many ways, is your left hand position. So what I want to do is just first start talking about the left hand position, because if you've got a bad left hand position, pretty much everything else I say is going to be not that helpful to you, because you won't be in the right position to be able to efficiently do these things. So just want to spend a minute talking about that left hand position. And a lot of people, before they formally study the guitar, they tend to have a hand position that looks a little bit like that, or maybe the thumb comes up over the back. It's more of like a steel string technique, electric guitar as well. Depending on the style of music you're playing, that can be fine if you're playing mostly single lines and chords, things like that. But for the classical, because very often we have to play polyphonic textures, and it's just a lot going on over here, we need to be in a hand position that will allow us to go in any direction. Best way I know to explain this would be, say, like, make this shape here. So it's like an F sharp major 7 chord. So it's like 4, 3, 2, 1 on the 4th string, 4th fret, 3rd string, 3rd fret, 2nd string, 2nd fret, 1st string, 1st fret, and then just go like that, and you end up with a shape that looks a little bit like this, and that should be the shape that you keep throughout most of the fretboard here. It gets a little more complicated when you get up above that 12th fret because of the body, but basically that's the hand position you want right there. And if I were to just go through and talk about it a little bit here, the first finger, you'll notice, is leaning a little bit, and this is from my perspective, leaning a little bit to the left. The middle finger is leaning a little bit to the left, but it's much more straight on. The third finger leaning a little bit to the right, but still pretty much straight on. And then the pinky is actually leaning a bit to the right. So again, it kind of looks like that. So if you get this position, this is our ready position. From here, you can kind of go in any direction you want. It gives your fingers a lot of access and flexibility, and makes playing the guitar much easier. Okay, so now let's talk about guide fingers. Well, the first thing is, what is a guide finger? If you're not quite sure, it's a fairly simple thing. When you have one chord going to another chord, like we do in the first measure of this little study that I just played, it's the study in D, by the way, by Aguado. You'll notice that my first finger stays on that first string. My second finger, plays the second string in the first chord, then my third finger plays the same string in the second chord, but the first finger is actually involved with both chords, and it stays on the same string. So that's the guide right there. So the first finger is the guide here. So as I play, then now I keep my first finger. You don't want to keep it down so that you're sliding up. What I do is, right when I'm about to shift, I relax, but I don't lift. So I relax, and my finger actually stays on the fretboard, on the string rather, not on the fretboard. So it's just that, and then I shift, and then I put it back down. So you get this. Right, so that's so much more efficient than doing something like this. Right, that's not very efficient at all. So what I'd like to do is just go through maybe the first half of this little piece with guide fingers. By the way, in my book, I've gone through and I've listed every single guide finger and where it's headed for both the first part and the second part of this little piece. So everything is detailed out there. So I'm just going to go through the first part of it here. Okay, so in the first measure, we already discussed this. The first finger is your guide finger, so it goes from the F sharp to the G. And now as we move here up to that, you've got 1 and 3 that you can use. So something I call a double guide finger. So here, right, so guide finger with 1, double guide finger with 1 and 3. Okay, and again, you just sort of relax on the shift, or else you'll get. If you want that, that's fine. But you want to make sure you can also do a clean shift as well. The next bits, the second half of the second measure, you move up to that. So first finger, guide finger. Then back down. So first finger, guide finger. Now double guide fingers. Guide finger with 1. So you basically go up and down that little pattern there, just in thirds. Now we're in measure 5. First finger, guide finger, double guide finger, and then that little bit, double guide finger 2 and 3 here, so from the F sharp, A sharp. And then here, you've got a guide finger from 4 to 4, there, C sharp to D. So you could go through your pieces like that and mark them. What I do in my editions as an editor is I put, like, let's say you've got, I don't know, like 3 going to 3. I'll put a 3 next to the first note. This is your left-hand fingering written in the score. There'll be a little 3 there. And then I'll put a -3 here. A lot of people think that means slide, but it doesn't. So -3 just simply means guide finger. So anyway, so now what I'd like to do is go through that first half of the piece again. It's just 8 bars. It's a little 16 measure study here, and talk about the left-hand preparation. So it's a combination of guide fingers, left-hand preparations, and obviously good hand position to make this successful here. So if I'm going through looking at the preparations here, I've got that little D major chord, and I'm going to this here. Notice my third finger. I can't, some people misunderstand and they try to get that third finger over the next note. Well, if you're out of position, you can't do that. So some people think, oh, well, then I can't do anything. Well, there's a compromise, and that's this. You can get it over the string you're going to be going to with that new finger, and you can get the spacing just right in advance, and then when you shift, all you have to do is just put it down. You see what I mean? So the third finger is actually prepared even though it's not over the string or the note that it's going to be playing. All I have to do is shift and I'm right there, as opposed to being like out of position like that or like that. So, okay. And then now here, second finger can prep because I'm going to be going there. So second finger is prepared over that second string, just like that. Now third finger prepares because I go back down like that. Just double guide fingers, there's nothing to prepare. Second finger is prepared for that. So again, it's out of position, but I can get it over the string and get the spacing right. So then all I have to do is put it down when I get there. Okay, so in measure 6, here we get this little, there. Here there's no shift, so I can do a really straightforward preparation here of that second finger. Right, 2 and 3, double guide fingers. Now I'm preparing 1 and 4 to get that little dominant 7 chord there, and then resolution to D major there. So, again, if you just sort of go through all of your music like this, you'll find that there are times where maybe, there is no guide finger and, the preparations are complicated. It kind of depends on, the music, but you'll find more often than not that there are a ton of opportunities to simplify your left hand and make things as efficient as possible. And, I guess I should also mention, I should have mentioned it at the beginning, but I'm mentioning it now, and you can apply this as well. As you're doing all this from one chord to the next, or when you're preparing, you want to keep your fingers as relaxed as possible, on those little changes there. So relax your left hand whenever possible, and never over press. Most people press harder with their left hand than they need to. So it's all about trying to make that left hand as easy as possible, as efficient as possible, and try to make this tricky thing, playing the guitar, is just a little bit easier so we can enjoy the music. Hope you got something out of this, and I'll see you soon.